Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 110.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, and welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. This is your host, Jay Massey, and if this is your first time here, welcome. Glad that you made it. If this is your second time here, I welcome you as well. And if it's your 100th time here, because it could be you could have been here 100 times by now, I welcome you too. Today, we are going to talk about, cash flow, like we always do, but we're also going to do it in a very different way because oftentimes you wonder, is cash flow possible? What does that look like from an entrepreneur? I have an idea. Is it worth anything? I think today's guest will be able to help you understand that all of us, and that means you, all of us that are listening right now have the ability to take our idea and not just create one, but not just two, but even multiple businesses and use those ideas in unique ways to go out there and create a difference in the world. Now, with all that being said, you got to wonder, man, where do all these great ideas come from? And how does that happen? As you guys know, one of the best things you can do is to continue to consume new books, as well as new podcasts, new information, new seminars. Go out there. The ideas abound. The solution to your problem is in someone else's idea. So let's go get it. Today's guest is Toby Salgado. He's the creator of Super Agents Live, where he interviews top producing real estate agents in the nation. His guests share their stories, strategies, and tactics so you could be the number one agent in your office. Now, here's the thing. He only advises people who want to become millionaires. Now, see, think about that for a second. That's not everybody on the planet. That may not even be you, but the point is, I bet you there's still information that he's going to share with you, with us today that will help you make bigger, better progress than you've done so far. So do me a favor and help me welcome Mr. Toby Salgado. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, Jay, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad that you are here. Now, for those, we've got to stick to our standard. One of the things that I like to think about when I think about today's entrepreneurs is I think they're kind of like yesterday's superheroes. And, when you think of Batman and Robin and Wonder Woman and the Arrow and whoever else, they all got some super special thing going on. But before they put on cape and tights, they were normal people and they had an origin story. So before we get into your greatness and everything else that exists around you, what I'd love for you to do is, if you will, share with us, who were you at the beginning?
That's a good question. I've never been asked to be, who was I at the beginning? Look, here's what I was. I was a kid. I was the kid who grew up on the wrong side of the tracks, right? The kid who, I went to school. I only had 3 pairs of pants. That's who I was, man. And I knew, even as a kid, I knew I wanted something different. I knew I didn't want to stay like that. And I'll tell you, my first actual entrepreneurial thing that I ever did, I'll tell you briefly, I was 9. And here's what it was. I was sitting on my dad's toilet, right, one morning, flipping through a magazine, and I saw an article, this advertisement for to buy toilet bowl cleaners wholesale. Right. And it was like, hey, here's this thing. And, the more you bought, the cheaper it got. And it said, double your money back guarantee. And I was like, whoa, I said, double your money back. So I got out of there. I went to my parents, said, Mom, Dad, look at this. I have $300. I'm going to buy this stuff and I'm going to return it. I'm going to double my money. And they said, well, you can't really do that. So I went to school and I couldn't get that idea out of my head. And I came back home and I said, listen, I'm going to buy these and I'm going to sell them because the more I buy, the cheaper I can get them. So I threw in my $300. I borrowed another $500 from my parents, my first capital raise. And I bought $800 worth of toilet bowl cleaners. And again, I'm 9 and literally I put them in a bag and went door to door and I sold them. And I think I got like a 2.5, I got more than a double return.
Wow.
So from that, moment, Jay, I knew like I learned the power of leverage. I knew that I wasn't gonna work for someone else, and I knew that if I was creative and and worked hard, that I could live the life that I wanted.
Interesting. So basically, then, if I hear you correctly, what you're really saying is that for us to get inspirational ideas that are going to help us double our money, we've got to go sit on the toilet.
No, yeah, no. What I'm saying is, you know what? It's look outside of your world. People are doing this thing, but you know what? I mean, look, my background, as we talked about in the pre-chat, I've made more than $1 million, and to my own net worth in 3 different industries, and these are all industries that I didn't know anything about. So I was I've done tech companies and I've done low tech companies, as well as finance companies. So I think most of the time people they have their expertise, right? They go, oh, this is what I know about, and they never look outside. Then I think that's a mistake.
I agree. 1000%. And it's one of those things that frustrates me about the educational system is that once someone ends up with a degree, that's the only place they consider themselves capable of working. Right. And yet for so many people, there's so many ways to create value, even though you have such specialized knowledge. So I find this interesting though, that when you're starting about talking, your parents weren't exactly encouraging, saying things like you can't do that, but yet you did it anyway. Where did that come from?
Oh, hold on. Here's maybe I didn't explain that enough. So number one, whatever venture that I could dream up, my parents were very much, hey, go try it, right? Hey, I want to try jumping off the roof. And they're like, oh, try it, right? So they were very much like encouraging that way. What they said I couldn't do, because it was more of like an ethical thing. So I said, I'm going to buy them, and then I'm going to just return them. And I thought I could double my money with their guarantee.
I see. No, you actually had to sell.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good. So at the age of, you said 9, correct?
Yeah, 9.
You're learning one of the most important skills on the planet, sales.
Yes.
Tell me, how did that go? When you heard that first no, what was that like? Do you remember?
You know what? I don't remember that. Here's what I do remember. People didn't understand what I was doing. I'd go to their door and say, "Hey, I'm Toby, and I live a couple doors down. I have these toilet bowl cleaners. They're $298. I don't exactly remember how much they were, but they last 6 months. And if they don't, you can double your money." And people would be like, "Who do you sell them for?" And I was like, kids sell candy, but somebody else buys the candy or something. That's what they couldn't get their head around. And once they sort of understood it, they were more, in a lot of ways, I was a cute little kid, and they were more than happy to say, yeah, look, man, give me 2. I even remember this one door I went in, and there was like a bunch of college kids, and I'm pretty sure they were high. And they said, I did my pitch at the door, and they're like, oh, hold on, dude, come in. I remember they put a stool in the middle of the kitchen, and there was like 20 of them. They all sat down and listened to me pitch it. Right. And then they said, oh, listen, yeah, we'll take 2. And I remember the guy saying, hey, could you install it for me? I'll give you an extra $5. And I said, sure. I never, ever thought about, I never did one before. I still, to this day, I don't know if I did it right, but I said, okay, it's complete. The guy gave me $5 and I was on my way.
Hey, there's a lesson right there, is that, you know what? Say yes, figure out how to do it later, because that definitely works. So tell us, how do you go from toilet bowl cleaner to tech industry and all these other businesses? What does that journey look like?
So here's the journey. I mean, I did an episode on my show, and the title was "Your Net Worth is Your Network." Okay, and you could say that your network is your net worth. I'm fortunate in the sense that I'm a pretty friendly guy, and I like to meet new people, and I'm very curious. So I've gotten to know lots of people, and every single opportunity, every single new company that I've done, you talked about it in your intro, right? It's an idea that I sort of got from someone else, right? These are all opportunities from my network that I just from chatting with people. They're like, oh, you should look at this. Now the deal is there's lots and lots of opportunities out there, lots and lots of good ideas. What is lacking out in the world, Jay, is execution. People will have $1 million idea, but they just won't go do it. And for me, I'm great at seeing those things. I'm great at finding those things, but I'm excellent at execution.
No, I'm just trying to pretend like you didn't just say that. I was just speaking and coaching some people over the weekend at a seminar and saying the one thing my team is good at, we are the best executioners on the planet. And if you hear that out of context, you could probably start thinking some very bad things. But that's the one thing we know how to do is execute. And we're hyper good at that. So, and I agree with you. Again, the ideas are out there. So when you say the ideas are in your network or that it's right there, your net worth is in your network, talk to us a little bit. If I'm that person who's beginning to be looking, for, I'm stuck in my W-2, I'm in my cubicle, or maybe I'm self-employed and wishing that I had less clients and more time, how do I begin to find out who's in my network and more importantly, what ideas I should actually execute?
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, I mean, your network is all around you. And I coach people as well, and people come and say, "Oh, listen, my sphere of influence, right? My sphere of influence. I only know 30 people." I'm like, first of all, dude, you know way more than that. But so I would say just get out of your comfort zone and think about here's what I would say. Here's what I would say to whoever you are out there. And whatever you're doing, I would suggest two things. One, pick up your high school yearbook, go through and Facebook friend every single one of them. Connect with them on LinkedIn, right? And start to spur those conversations, try to build that relationship, and bring them closer and closer to you, right? Get their email and then get their cell phone number. And then as you go around your day, man, I mean, I do it all. I'll be driving and I'll just look in my phone book and like, boom, boom, boom. I haven't talked to that guy and bang. And I'll say, hey man, what's up? And that's it. And, you have a 2-minute conversation or a couple texts and, you stay top of mind. And as those people see things, right. And, it'll just naturally, for me, it just organically happens.
Oh, this is so awesome. Is because I love the idea of staying top of mind. It's one of the things that I think makes, people wonder, how do you force something to happen in a lot of cases, hunting or fishing? Yeah. And you can't really do that all the time as much as if you're just top of mind. Now, one of my things that I often
tell, Jay, sorry, let me just jump in there real quick, just because I don't want to get off. I want to say something that I think it's important is if you can be good at execution, and again, like for me, I'm driving around and sending texts or whatever. Here's what people know, right? Because obviously you're keeping them abreast of your life. They know that I'm a great guy at execution. So lots of times people go, "Oh, I can't do anything with this," but you know what? Maybe Toby can, so I become like this hub of people throwing stuff at me, going, Toby can make it happen. So again, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I thought that was important to say.
No, you actually shortcut where I was going. So, which is perfect, is because you open yourself up to, you're now known as someone who can actually solve a problem because you're going to follow through and get it done. Therefore, people are willing to give you their problems, i.e., I don't know what to do with this, but I'm sure there's something great. And you end up in a position where you're like, yeah, this one is great, so let's go execute. So I know for me, one of the super secrets, if you will, has been the quality, not necessarily the quantity, but the quality of those individuals that have assisted in executing the vision. Have you also found that to be true?
Say that sentence one more time, Jay.
Specifically, I'm referring to the team, those who help you execute the vision that you lay out. I know for me, the quality has been way more important than the quantity of individuals that we've ever had on a team. And I was just curious as to how your experience was.
Yeah. So it's an interesting question. I probably need to think about it a little bit. For me, all these, my background, right? What I'm really, really good at is in a lot of ways just influence, right? Mm-hmm. Influencing people. And it goes back to the sales thing. So for me, when I build a team, the people that I go out and look for, I'm really sort of looking for very specific talent or skill set, right? Because overall, I'm the guy who can sell it. I'm the guy who manages it. So I don't know how to answer that one, Jay. Sorry, bud.
That's fine. That's fine. It's just, I know for me, when I'm jumping into things, I often tell people is that I don't have to know everything about that something. You take something as small but as big as and impactful as just the legal aspect of a new business, of a new venture. Yeah. I mean, when you go from one industry to the next, there's new legal concerns. Yeah. I don't need to know how to actually draft the operating agreement or the contract or whatever else is I need to be abreast of, but I need to make sure that the quality of the individuals that I'm relying upon are there, as opposed to saying, well, I've got 15 people who help me with that. That doesn't really help. I just need that guy or gal who actually knows their stuff and has the ability to go out there and make that happen.
Yeah, I totally agree, and I think we are saying the same things. That's why I said, I'm looking for very specific skill sets, right? It's exactly right. And I think again, it goes back to I'll tell you a quick story. The first big company, when I say big in terms of headcount, the low tech company, B Erosion Control, which is no longer in existence. We got that up to about 58 people. Now, when I started that, I didn't know how to. Look, here's the deal. I said, I had this idea. I said, look, I'm going to try this. I made a couple sales calls. I said, listen, I'd like to talk to I called a $1 billion company. And I said, hey, I would like to talk to your company about these new laws and erosion control. And they said, hey, yeah, come on in. It was this company called Rudolph and Sledden. I thought I was meeting with 2 people. I walk into this room and there are 35 people there. I'm like, holy crap. I've never done this. I literally bought a book on the internet and read it. But I started talking to this group of 35 people.
Nice.
And as I walk out of there, this guy goes, hey, I'm here. Do you want to do it? And I said, sure. And it was literally the first contract I got was $42,000. So I said, sure. So literally I have a trooper, right? I don't even have a truck. I go, I figure out where to buy this stuff. Number one. Number two, I go to U-Haul. I rent a U-Haul trailer, right? I'm the most unprofessional guy out there. I'm driving up with a U-Haul trailer and I didn't have any employees. I went to Home Depot and got, some laborers and put them on the job. And we did it. And we finished it in like 2 weeks. And out of that $42,000 top line contract, my net profit was $26,000. Now, here's the deal, Jay. Here's why what I was told you that story is, I'm super duper unprepared. I don't have a truck. I don't have laborers. I finished the job and I go, here's my bill. Here's like, pay me. And they're like, wait a second. Where's your contractor's license? We need copies of your insurance. I don't have a license. I'm not insured. I don't have any of that stuff. And I literally had to go and like backfill that in. It was basically just find, a friend that's a contractor, right? And use his license and name, and then quickly pay and get insurance. So I think most people in that situation would go, well, hold on. I got to do a whole bunch of research and I got to get all set up. Dude, just ready, fire, right? Or fire, aim. Like I just go and do it.
You know what, Toby? I wish you could see my face right now because I just learned something that you and I are probably the same person in so many ways. If my team is listening to this, they're shaking their head. Yeah, because they often are dealing with, I call it my fire, aim ready strategy. Because that's literally what ends up happening is we fire, then we think about aiming, then we fire one more time, and then we aim, and then we fire, and then we finally get ready. And whereas I agree with you, too many people get stuck in I can't do that because I don't have all of these other things in a row. And clearly you and I operate from the same perspective. We just start and then we clean up the mess later.
Right.
Which is interesting. And it gets you so far, which I absolutely appreciate. So if you would share with us one of those ideas that you think, what is the, Michael J. Fox did a movie a long time ago called The Secret of His Success. So what do you think is consistent between the multiple different industries that you've had the ability to participate in that has allowed you to see the success?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's one thing, and here it is, and I'll run you through it quickly, right? So if we go back to that in 2001, I did the low tech company. Now, here's how I did this. Again, somebody in my network, a friend said, hey, there's all these laws on the books around the Clean Water Act that have been on the books for 20 years, and nobody's been enforcing them. And again, he knew this. He worked at the county of San Diego. So he said, listen, we are going to start enforcing these. And he said, you should look into it. So I said, I don't want to go low tech. And I did. Like I went in and I interviewed some people in the industry. I realized there's a business there and bang, I started doing it. Now, the deal is, for me, like most people, if they're going to do that, I'm not a believer in doing a business to consumer venture. Every single one of those that I've done, I've had 2 failures, and both of those were business to consumer. I'm very much B2B. Okay, so what I did I started this company and I didn't go to single contractors even, because I would even see that as sort of like a consumer play. I went to publicly traded home builders. Now, the people who typically would go to these publicly traded home builders to ask for business, they would go to the guy in the field and say, listen, I know you're dealing with this and can I do your work? I didn't do that. I went right up the chain, right? My background is go to the top and then work down instead of the other way around. I went to the vice presidents of purchasing, right? Got a meeting with those guys and said, listen, here's my background. Here's why I'll kill it for you. Hire me. And so when I did that, there's like only a handful of publicly traded home builders that are putting up, more than 1,000 homes a year, at least. And again, this is during the boom times. And I locked those up. So if you would have had my idea, you said, hey, I want to do erosion control 6 months after me, guess what? You're locked out. And there are a lot of people were. I locked it up, and because it was me and actually 2 other people who were already in there. And so the window there's a specific window of opportunity that I jumped on. And if we fast forward into 08, what I did after that business wasn't viable anymore, is I started a $12 million little fund, and we started doing bridge loans. Here's how, again, Lehman Brothers failed in September 08. Banks started going, failing all over the country. Everybody was running scared, and banks would not loan money to anybody. There are lots of companies out there who had revenue, they had assets, needed money to grow, but there was no outlet for it. So I said, well, geez, there must be, all these banks are running scared. There must be some opportunity for private funding. And there was. I found a deal, and they needed, they had assets. They had a $30 million piece of land, riverfront land in Sacramento that they pledged, and they needed $10 million. Sorry. They needed $10 million. So I put in $1 million, $1.5 million of mine. Found a close buddy of mine. He threw in $1 million, and then we raised the rest from friends and family. And the amount was, we charged them 6% a month, and it worked out great. I mean, that was only a 5-month deal. That's fine. We made a bunch of money in that 5 months. So I think that if I look at all the stuff that I'm doing, it's all based on windows of opportunity, right? If I would have started that fund again 6 months later, we would have been late to the game, right? And even now with, I have this podcast. Guess what? I firmly believe that, I started it a year ago. So I was on the early wave of this second resurgence of I believe this medium, this form of broadcasting is going to be huge. So I believe that I jumped in at the right time. So sorry, go Jay.
No. Well, I was going to say, we're hoping that too, because I was looking at your show. We're almost identical in terms of number of episodes that we've gone through, and we started last year as well. Wow. But one of the principles that I hear you're saying is that where there's chaos, there's cash flow, and the key is interpreting what to do when these signals come your way. Because I think everybody's getting the same signal, but yet you're interpreting them differently. We have to interpret them differently, or we choose to interpret them differently as entrepreneurs, and turning that signal into a solution that then becomes a business of, and the only difference is scale at that point. Where do you think you learned to recognize those signals?
That's interesting. I don't know. I honestly, I don't know where I learned that. I think it's, again, just from looking around, I think it's like going back to 9 years old, right? And finding opportunity in the odd places that I did, right? I was on the toilet looking at a magazine, and I did a deal, I started a little thing with toilet bowl cleaners. So I think just for me, I've never thought traditionally. I think a lot of people go, hey, I want to go to school, get good grades, and get a good job. I never thought like that. So I think just like, when I think if your brain wave patterns, sort of loop around instead of, I don't know. I don't know. I think I was just built like that from the beginning.
Yeah, I would agree. The challenge is that not everybody, it's something that people want to try to learn, or they want to try and teach. And I don't know that it can be taught. It has to be caught, for lack of a better way of saying it. So what would you say to the individual listening to us right now? Maybe because they heard your statement earlier, they're like, well, I don't have $1.5 million, and I definitely don't have any friends that's got that. How am I ever going to find my opportunity and more or less take advantage of it because of what I don't have?
Yeah, man, that you cannot think. Here's the thing. I get a version of that question a lot, right? People say, oh, hey, look, I want to, investors will come to me and they'll say, listen, Toby, give me your investment criteria. And I'm like, find me a deal. Find me a deal. And if it's a deal, I don't care what it is, I'll do it. And I think, if you are out there and you're, you want to do something new, and you think that, your lack of training or your lack of education or your lack of money is a hindrance to that, or it may be a hindrance, but it won't stop you. I think at the end of the day, if you can find a deal There's lots of money out there. And I hear that a lot of times people go, well, geez, I can find deals all the time, but I can't find money. Well, you know what? I mean, look, find a deal and you can find money. Yeah. I think you would agree with that, Jay.
I do wholeheartedly. I want someone else to finally say it other than me. That's really what's going on right now. So when you say, because I believe strongly, there's a huge supply and demand imbalance. There's a ton of money, but very little supply of educational or educated individuals who know how to use the funds in an appropriate way. And don't mistake my word educational for being that you have to have a degree of some kind. That's not what I mean. There's a difference between education and schooling. That's not what we're talking about. So yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly. It's just I'm just glad someone else is saying it, right now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So what would you say if has there ever been a time where you found an obstacle? Like, let's talk about some of the things that didn't go well. What do you think has been the greatest lessons there that you have not, that helped you probably later on?
Are you tired of letting good cash flow generating ideas go to waste? Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready to apply for a complimentary, yes, that means free, one-on-one breakthrough session. Take action now. Go to cashflowdiary.com/ready. Again, that's cashflowdiary.com/ready. Before we get back to today's episode of the Cashflow Diary podcast, your host Jay Massey has some important insights to share with you.
Okay, you probably figured it out that building your team is important. And we're talking today with an individual who can help us do that in various different ways. So what have you learned so far? Who are you thinking of contacting to make things happen? See, one of the ways to begin to use social media in a completely different way than you probably have before is to figure out how to contact more and more of these individuals. And this next section, we're going to talk a little bit more about finding some of those real estate professionals. I'm going to give you a resource right now. Something called Active Rain. Active Rain. Go to activerain.com. I think they've since been acquired by Trulia, but the point is there's a lot of real estate professionals at activerain.com. Let's get back to our interview.
Yeah. So, and it's, I'm going to say it in a weird way here. And this is kind of the guy who first said this, I think, in a widespread form. Oh, I can see his face. Anyhow, you don't know what you don't know. And right. The deals that have fallen apart and the companies that have failed on me, it's all because it's something I just didn't know. I didn't know to ask about. I mean, I've started companies where, look, I started a company. It's called Task Hero. And it was a platform, kind of like an Elance for odd jobs around your house, right? And I was going to do. I'm in San Diego, and I had a cute idea saying, "Hey, listen, there's lots of support and sympathy for our service members and people who are in the military,
right?
And we have a lot of those people here." So I said, "Okay, listen, those are the people. Those are the only people who can bid on the jobs in this platform." So obviously, the first thing I did, I went to all the bases. We have all sorts of bases here in San Diego. I went to all of them, and I talked with the employment groups. I talked with the relocation people, all those people, and I said, "This is what I'm thinking about doing. This is great. Oh man, that is such a great idea. All of our service members would love that. Even if they only made an extra $100 a month, they could use it." And I said, "Okay, great." So I go out. I spend a bunch of money on the domain name. I spend a bunch of money on development. It's up and running. I go back to them and say, "Listen, okay, here it is. It's up and running. Let's get some of your folks in here." And they're like, "Well, hold on a second. It's a great idea, but we can't promote you, because if we did," so I'm like, all of a sudden the one side of that business just completely vanished. And in terms of getting to scale, I literally couldn't go out and get them one by one fast enough. So I didn't know to ask that question. You love it, but can you support it? And I did a deal. I did a bridge loan. I lost $420,000 of my own money. This is about maybe a year and a half ago now. And it was a deal. I won't get into the specifics, but basically this company did work for the military. And I looked at their books. They needed $400,000. So they had $1.2 million in receivables, $800,000 in oh gosh, I forget what it's called, retention. Okay, so whatever. I do the deal. I say no, then I finally do the deal, and it looks good. Well, one of those vendors are not paying us, so we had to throw more money in there, right? And the bottom line is this. And then I had to bring a friend in, and he threw another like 350 grand into it. And then we said, forget it. We're going to let the company die. We're not going to throw more money at this thing, hoping that they get paid. And we thought, okay, listen, the receivables of 1.2 will come in. Well, if it was a private company, it would. Unfortunately, that's not the way those contracts are written. So guess what? $400,000 of my money up in smoke because I didn't know to ask that question. So the things that have failed for me is I didn't know Donald Rumsberg or I can't think of his name. He's the guy who first said it. I didn't know what I didn't know. And I think after learning those lessons, I'm much before, especially I throw money like 400 grand at a problem or spend a year of my life building something. I'm much more diligent about trying to uncover that crazy little thing of I don't know what I don't know.
You know, that's so true. One of my favorite questions to ask someone, especially when I'm going down a path that I've never been, is on the other side of the table. I will ask them, okay, so what is the question that I'm not asking that you know I should ask? Because it often reveals something that I didn't know because they know it. Somebody knows to ask that question, but if no one ever brings it up, then one typically volunteers, and then you find out, oh, why didn't you ask that? That's a common question. Well, you could have told me. Right. So now we can say that this particular episode is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars because we've gotten one good question out of it. That's cool.
Yeah.
So what now that you've got that, you paid full price for that lesson. How would
full retail?
Yeah, I know, right? No discount. How would you say that you've been able to? How has that changed your acquisition process or your due diligence process, or has it in any way? Does it knock more deals off the table? What do you do?
No, it doesn't knock more deals off. Here's what I'm better at doing. Is just like we talked about, you can find inspiration in unlikely places. You can find answers in very unlikely places. So when a deal comes across my desk that I'm unsure about, or there might be something I don't know. Now, again, I've done lots and lots of different deals. So it's not often does this happen that I go, oh, like I'm unfamiliar with, this kind of thing. But what I do is I will run it by people in my network. And even if they don't seem to have the background, right? I mean, I have a 75-year-old guy that's in my network that I'll go, hey, what do you think of this? Here's all the pieces. And he will come up because of his background. He'll think of questions that I would have never thought to ask. And then I'll run it by, I have a friend who paints houses. Literally, he paints houses. He's a successful guy. But, I will take a deal and I'll say, hey, what do you think of this? And it's amazing for me. Like that has uncovered so many new ways of thinking about the problem that I have in front of me. And look, and it also is I will get introductions to other people because I'm now I'm reaching out to my friends, but then they have the ability to reach back into their networking. Even the painter might go, hey, you know what? I just painted a guy's house last month and he does this sort of thing. Let me introduce you to him and maybe, and so again, you can find inspiration and answers in this.
All right. So here's the interesting thing that I find in that situation is I think many of us employ our own special, unique way of getting to that information that we don't know. And I like yours. I will often, like, for example, one of the things that I hate to, it's almost like I don't want to say this, but I will have my wife, who typically doesn't get too deeply involved in many of the transactions, but I will have her or one of my other team members, actually, who's female specifically, talk to someone on the phone, whether they're related to business or not, and just tell me, how do you feel about the person, their character, who they are? All these little things always come up in different ways because people who may or may not have had experience or exposure to those things, they always come up with the one thing that I'm overlooking, and that's I hate to find that out after the fact. Go ahead.
Yeah. That's so interesting. You just said that. Because if I look back, because I do talk to my wife, because if I'm going to risk $1 million of our money, or even even 10 grand, right? Even if I do like a small $10,000 bridge loan, I'll say, hey, honey, I'm doing this. So I was trying to get buy-in from, she's my, she's on the board of our company, right?
Right.
But here's the deal. The things that have gone wrong, like she will say, I don't like that guy, or I get a creepy feeling from that guy.
Yeah.
And so that's it. I should start doing that more. I should put her on the phone with these people and get her take on it.
I can't tell you how many times I've either, if she didn't talk to them, we went to dinner, or I'd have, I also have, a lot of my internal team are females, and I'll have them talk to them as well. Cause I think women have got some extra sense thingy somewhere. They just go, I don't know why, I just don't like him. And I'm like, every time I've ignored that, well, I got my own lessons. That's a whole nother story on that one.
Right.
So what would you say to the person wondering, what is Super Agents Live right now? Because we haven't talked about that at all.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, look, here's the deal. One book, I don't know if you asked for book recommendation, but one book that everybody should read, I firmly believe, is Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich. It is a fantastic book. Now, what Napoleon Hill did to write that book, he went and he talked with the titans of industry at the time, right? All the Rockefellers, all those guys. I'm doing that for real estate now, and so I have a show that I interview top producing agents, coaches, and authors. And I started the show really because I believe that real estate is broken, and I wanted to help. And I'm doing the same thing Napoleon Hill did. I'm talking with the titans of the industry and bringing them on. And really, much like your show, Jay, my show is about entrepreneurship through the lens of a real estate agent. So, we talk about, mindset. We it's not strategy and tactics of, okay, hey, go door knocking, or, hey, do this many calls. It's really like, hey, you just made $4 million last year. What is it in you that wants you to go out and make $6 million next year? So yeah, that's kind of what we do on the show.
Awesome. I love that. Because see, oftentimes people go, well, if you've got 4 million, why on earth would you want to go to the next? Because I get a form of that question of, Jay, why buy another building? And I love that, because when you tap into the fact that there's a certain something that you're put here to do, you might as well do it regardless of the result. Keep doing good, making it happen. So what would you say to the individual who's thinking of possibly about becoming an agent in some way, shape, or form? Where's their advantage in today's marketplace if they're competing with individuals who are already at the $4 and $6 million level?
Yeah, look, and those are two different questions. And I'll tell you, if somebody's out there and they're thinking about getting into real estate, I will say this, and I would, you can look back in history. You can go all the way back to King Solomon, right? Real estate is the one thing that has built wealth for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And it's such a fantastic, I believe, such a fan. And look, I'm not a real estate agent, and I've only sold my own stuff that I've bought. I've never done that for anybody else.
Right.
But, more real estate has made more millionaires than I think any other industry, and it doesn't take a fancy education. There's a very low barrier to entry to do it. And look, and there's a problem in that as well. You get a lot of people, because there's a low barrier, you have a lot of people who are, shouldn't be there to begin with. But the deal is, most agents, right? Here's a weird number. According to NAR, National Association of Realtors, only 2% of real estate agents make more than $200,000 a year. So what does that tell you? There's a lot of people that are not very good at it. So if you have drive, you can go out. Literally, you can go. I had a guy on my show. His Vietnamese refugee, can barely speak English. The guy went from Vietnam to lily white Seattle at 21. Literally, he still can barely speak English. His claim to fame is 100 doors a day for 10 years. He said, "I'm going to knock on 100 doors every day." And by year 3, the guy was making $1 million a year, and he owned like 17 houses. What other industry could you do that?
Oh, yeah. I think they're already converted. And if they weren't, that'll definitely do it. What would you say, though, in your time interviewing and working with these high performing agents? Let's talk to the investors. Let's give them the leg up on being able to interact with, and most importantly, deal and establish a relationship with one of these top producing investors in their, or agents in their area. How do they do that?
Yeah. So listen, I would say, if you're an investor out there, I wouldn't necessarily try to develop a relationship with the top guys. Find somebody who has something, a little tiny twinge, right? So here's what I mean. And I'll give you an example from my own background. When I was, go back to 2009, when I was buying onesie twosies, right? Single family, whatever, properties. And I bought commercial and equestrian, all this stuff. But here's the deal. banks at that time they had REOs, they had bank owned properties that they would give to agents to sell. So I said, number one, I want these people. Okay. That's who I looked for. They had this little niche of theirs. And I went to those and I just made a bunch of calls and said, listen, are you getting bank owned properties? Yes, you are. Okay, great. I had a meeting with them and I showed them my bank account. Right? I said, hey, listen, this is my bank account. This is what you have access to. I want your best deals. You give me your best deals and you get more of this. So I developed relationships with actually three of those agents, and they wanted my money so bad, right? And here's what they did: I got properties for pennies on the dollar because I'll tell you one. It was a commercial piece of property. The bank they were foreclosing on, or they got it. They were owed $468. Now the person said, hey, we can probably get this for $100,000. I'm like, this is impossible, dude. But I ended up paying $85,000 for this piece of property because here's what they did. Now, ethical, moral or not, I just said, hey, I want it. You find me deals and you get more of this. So I said, I'll take it for $100,000. And they put the bid in or whatever. And when they put it on the MLS, they put it with no picture. They put it as pending, but they put it on the I'm in San Diego, the MLS in Los Angeles. The thing sat there for 4 or 5 months, and the whole time they had my all cash offer for $85,000. Bang, I got that deal. So number one, I would say find an agent out there who has a niche, right? So I've had on my show people who work with probate attorneys. If you can build a relationship with that person who has a niche, you can find deals. So, but don't go to just the top producing guy is not your guy. You need to find somebody hungry and has a niche.
I agreed. Keyword on that hungry piece, because if they're not hungry, they may not be willing to do the work required to get the discount you need.
Right. Absolutely.
In order to go out there and make that happen. So what are some of what would you say if you could, is the one thing you would tell the previous you, before you put on your cape and tights and were the superhero you are today, serial entrepreneur? What would you go back and tell the old Toby that now the new Toby is here?
Stay humble, man. Stay humble and don't get cocky. There's, I've lost lots and lots of money from, and I probably lost $2 million right in the last 15 years. And it's from me thinking that I am a superhero, right? It's me going, hey, listen, I'm making $1 million over here. That's fine. I'm now going to get into the stock market. And, I'll throw $200,000 at this private placement, which is a private placement is a private company and you're hoping that goes public. I thought, again, when I've lost money, it's because I've gotten cocky and I felt like, oh, I have the Midas touch. I can make that happen. Well, I can't, man. And you know what? So, even though I've suggested this whole time to do stuff that you don't know how to do, there's certain things that like in throwing a lot of money at a private placement, it's just not the world that I play in. And you know what? And those people who are selling me that deal, their interest is not super aligned with mine.
Oh, you got that. Yes. I'm all I'm going to say is yes on that one, because I think we all got our lessons. In fact, it got to the point to where I produced a webinar that just went through 7 or 8 of my top biggest mistakes, just to show people that, hey, mistakes happen and it's okay. It's all good. What would you say to that person, speaking of mistakes, who's possibly out there dealing with the fact that they've made a mistake in the past, but yet they want to keep going, and maybe they're having trouble figuring out how to do so? Because if you've lost millions and you're still going, you've got to have some secret to dealing with that past error.
You know what? Well, that's it. It's in the past, man. And I'll tell you, when I lost that here's a saying that stockbrokers say. They say, hey, losing money for my clients is fine as long as it goes slow. If you can see, if your stockbroker is losing you money, it's okay if it happens a little month over month. I never took, I've lost, before the $420,000 loss, the biggest amount I've lost was about $175. And again, it took me 3 years to realize I lost that. And by the time I knew that was gone, I made that investment 3 years ago. I was already over it. this $420,000 loss literally happened over the course of 4 months. When that happens that fast, bad thoughts start to get in your head. I was thinking, I have 3 kids. I was like, you know what? I just blew I could put them through college.
Right.
I just threw away a Ferrari.
Right.
Like I could have bought a house for that much money. And that hurts, man. And it took me, honestly, man, it took me about 30 days just to go, you know what? Look, it's over. It's done. It's in the past. I can't let that weigh me down for the future. And you just have to shake it off. So if you're out there and you've had a loss and that's holding you back, it's an insidious infection disease that will take you down and paralyze you. It's in the past.
Well said. Well said. So for those who want to find out more about this, what you've delivered thus far, tell us a little bit about, anything special that you might have for us that could help us become bigger, better investors, and or how we can just find out more about what you're up to.
Yeah, listen. So, I mean, look, I hope I've delivered some value here. And if, and you can go, here's what I would say. And you said this, I think, early on, right? Everything is about being able to sell, being able to influence. So, and that takes practice. Not everybody's born with that, if there is such a thing. But I wrote a little 32-page ebook called How to Sell, and it applies to what, whether you're the plumber, pie maker or painter, it's free. So go to my site, superagentslive.com, and, download the book and get it. If you have questions, you can contact me through there. I'm super, I answer all my own emails, and I make it a point to answer every single email. So, if you're out there and you have a question, I'm happy to help. I want to help. That's why I do my show.
Definitely appreciate you taking the time to be here. Thanks for giving and contributing. And if for any reason in the future we can help you, please let us know.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what it's time to do? It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. It's time to go out there, go to Super Agents Live, go read Think and Grow Rich if you haven't. If you have, read it again, because I know you don't remember it all. And most importantly, let's go out there and do something. Become masterful executioners in the marketplace, and you never know how far your ideas will take you. I look forward to talking to all you guys again soon. Until next time.